If you want to know whether Street Fighter 6 is going to run on the Asus ROG Ally Z1 Extreme, you're in the right place because we're going to be testing Street Fighter 6 on an external monitor, plugged in turbo mode, and also not plugged in on battery power. We're going to see how this game performs. The Ally has a 1080p Full HD screen built in, compared to the Steam Deck, which has an 800p screen and most likely running most of your games at 720. Anyway, let's see whether this Asus ROG Ally Z1 Extreme can run Street Fighter 6 on an external monitor at Full HD at a locked 60 FPS, and also do the same tests on battery power in handheld mode. Alright, I've got Street Fighter 6 running here on the Asus ROG Ally Extreme Z1. It will never get too tiring to say the whole name, and just wanted to show you it running at the highest possible setting. We're not getting a locked 60 FPS, we're down to 34 FPS, that's basically half the speed of the game, and this is running in turbo mode. I'm sure you can probably overclock it a little bit more than this, but generally speaking, this is the maximum power you're going to get. So let's go through all the different settings and see which one will get us a proper 60 FPS at full HD. Alright, the next setting down from highest is high settings, so let's try that. Alright, at high settings, we're looking down to 35, it's 39, 40, so we've gone up basically an average of 4 or 5 frames per second. We're averaging 38. That's only 40 out of 60. That's 2/3 the speed that we want. We need to go a little bit faster. Moving it down to normal settings here, and this is still running at full HD. Alright, in normal mode, and it still looks like it's scrolling. We're at about 42 FPS. So we've only gained maybe 2 or 3 FPS by using normal mode. We need it to go faster. Go into the options menu and let's change it from normal to low settings. Now low settings is still running at full HD, but the main difference is that the internal resolution has gone down to 4. Yes, it is displaying 1080p as a signal. What's being fed into that signal is like, I guess, 4/5 as much resolution. It's not actually full HD before it gets to the screen. The screen just thinks it's a full HD. Honestly, if you're not staring like right at the screen, you're not going to really notice that it's running at a different resolution that isn't like full HD, but you know, maybe over time, and you spend 8 hours a day playing these games, you might notice. Alright, looking good so far. Running at 60, and I'm not seeing any delays right now. And this is a dramatic difference, a completely different experience to what we had with normal settings, which was still only 40 out of 60 FPS. The GPU's at about 77%, 14% for the CPU, so it's not even maxing itself up. It's possible that we could even change a few more settings up so it looks a little bit better. Now before we go any further, I want to explain that the reason we're doing the external monitor test first while it's docked and plugged into power is because I'm afraid that it's going to thermal throttle itself if I do the test later. I've actually played a large number of handhelds, and there were some that would actually start to chug if it was charging the battery at the same time as playing, because if the battery's getting hot and charging, it will thermal throttle the handheld itself. I'm not saying that this one will do it, but I'm just making sure that we're doing the test properly. Alright, this is what we're going to do. We're in the graphics settings, and what I want is full HD, but I don't want internal resolution to be lowered, because if the internal resolution is lowered, we're not actually playing at full HD, are we? We're playing at some lower resolution, which is being projected at full HD. We'll go to low settings, which is giving us a base resolution of full HD, but the internal resolution is 4. Let's change that over to 5. Since we're going at an internal resolution of 5, let's drop everything else in the game to low settings. So all of these things are off. We're gonna have anti-aliasing off. We'll go into detailed graphics settings. We'll leave lighting quality on low. We'll have texture quality on lowest. We'll have mesh quality on lowest. We'll have shadow quality on lowest. We'll have shader quality on low. Effects quality on lowest. Sampling quality on standard, and bloom is going to be set to off. Alright, already on the main screen you can see that everybody's skin has become incredibly smooth. It's like they've all been turned into like plastic toys instead of actual human characters, which is completely going against the aesthetic of Street Fighter 6 being realistic and gritty. You've got this weird sort of mirror effect, sort of screen door effect over the characters' skins, and when they zoom in on this screen, just got this bizarre, these weird moire patterns all over them. They look like they're in a really cheap manga, and it just looks like a completely different game. It's like it looks really low budget. But as you can see, we are running at a locked 60 FPS, and technically speaking, this is full HD with no sacrifices being made on the resolution. But wouldn't you rather just sacrifice resolution and not have to look at the characters with all their smooth, I was gonna say smooth brains, with their ultra smooth toy skin? It's just not right. So now let's go back to the settings, and I'm going to show you the setting that I've found, which is allowing the game to run at full HD, full internal resolution of 5, and it doesn't make the characters look like plastic toys. Alright, to start things off, we're going to go to the low setting, which is, again, full HD, but first thing we need to change is internal resolution. We really want it to be at 5. We're going to put the maximum frame rate back up to 60, and then we're going to leave all of these settings just as they are standard. The next thing we need to do is look at the detailed graphics settings, and what we're going to make sure is that texture quality is set to normal. Don't set it to low, and definitely don't set it to lowest. We're going to have texture quality on normal, but we're going to have almost everything else on low. So we're going to have lighting quality at normal, texture quality at normal, we're going to have mesh quality on low, we're going to have shadow quality on low, we're going to have shader quality on low, effects quality on low, sampling quality on standard, and I think we can turn bloom off. Honestly, it looks very similar to how it looked earlier. Skin is maybe looking a little bit smoother than before. You can still see a little bit of moire patterns on their skin when you're zoomed in, but again, when you're zoomed out during the main gameplay, you don't see that sort of thing. It has returned back to normal Street Fighter look, and as you can see, we are running at a locked 60 and with an internal resolution of 5. So we're not playing a sort of fake HD, we're running at proper HD, and that was the most amazing EXDP that you will ever see. Just for kicks, let's see if we can raise a few of these settings up and make the visual quality a little bit nicer and still lock ourselves at 60 FPS. Mesh quality, we'll have that on normal, and let's also set the shader quality to normal. High. Okay, I'm not seeing any dips yet. Interesting. We haven't lost any frames yet. So the reason I'm a little bit surprised now is because I did all of my testing on handheld mode. I think the handheld runs at like 10 watts extra power when you're plugged into your actual power adapter. If you're going to bring this to locals or a friend's house and you're going to be running little mini fighting game tournaments, you're going to be plugged into the wall anyway. I mean, if you're plugged into a monitor, the monitor is probably plugged into the wall. If you are playing at an airport on one of those like portable monitors, then you could just drop it down to 720p and you'd be fine. I'm not noticing any dips at all apart from that one time that it dipped to 59, and that's what's making me a little bit nervous. I think I might not run this specific setting if I were, you know, at a local and I was playing with friends or bringing it to show people. I don't want people to think like, oh, this is a handheld that actually has frame drops. It doesn't have to, as long as you choose the settings correctly. So that's it for the external monitor test, but now we need to find out how it performs in handheld mode. Alright, so here we are with the Asus ROG Ally Z1 Extreme, and yes, we are now in handheld mode. And as you can see, we've got all of these stats here in the corner, but the main thing is that now that we're in handheld mode, we don't have quite as much electricity to spend on boosting power through the GPU and the CPU. We should try normal just to see how that goes. This is basically what we saw in plugged in mode as well. Even though it's running at a different power rating when it's plugged in to when it is running on battery power, we're getting more or less the same results. So graphics will set from normal to low. So this is low settings, full HD, lowered internal resolution down to 4, but it looks pretty good. All the textures have still got moderately high settings on them, so all the textures are nice, the shaders are nice, the effects are nice. Alright, so I think the one thing I want to do now is show you if that same setting that I did on the external monitor is going to work here as well. base low setting, and we'll actually change basic graphics settings, internal resolution back up to 5, with texture quality normal, mesh normal, shadow normal, shader low, effects low, sampling low, standard, bloom off. Alright, so now with our tweaked settings of full HD but no lowered internal resolution, and as you can see, I'm pretty sure we're running at a locked 60 FPS. I'm not seeing any dips whatsoever. Sure you can! Oh, I am seeing it dip down to 59 every now and then. Alright, so let's go back to the mode settings and let's change it back to the setting that I said was basically guaranteed to work. So in low settings, we're going to change the basic graphics internal resolution up to 5, maximum frame rate up to 60, and then go back into detailed graphics settings, and this is where we want texture to be normal, but everything else to be basically low. So normal, normal, low, 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 lowest, standard, off. Not noticing any dips down below 60. Let's do some EX moves, do something with an effect. Last thing I want to do is just double check to see if it still holds together with VSync, so set on, VSync on. Not 100% sure why VSync would do this, but it's something that you might want to know. If you require VSync to be on when you play this game, you may want to change the setting down. Alright, this is in lowest setting, which has actually turned quite a few things down, and so even though it's at 720p, it looks like it's running at a significantly lower resolution than 720p. But this is a setting where just, by default, it will run at 60 FPS and with VSync on. So again, if VSync is something you absolutely, definitely require, then you might want to consider this. Let's try low settings with 720p, and then change the maximum frame rate to 60 and make sure that VSync is on. Let's see if this is the magic sweet spot. Oh, much smoother and much faster. And remember, this is the resolution that people will be playing on Steam Deck anyway, because remember that the Steam Deck doesn't even have an HD screen, so it's not even an option.
Alright, that's all we've got time for. Just wanted to show you all the different ways that you can tweak the settings to play this game at the most optimal frame rate for Street Fighter 6. You want to be running at a locked 60 FPS, and who knows, you might also want to be playing at full HD, which is something you can do with the Ally because of this 1080p screen built into the device, as opposed to, of course, the Steam Deck, which has a really nice screen. Actually, I quite like the screen on this, but it is 720 or 800p, but it's going to be running your games at 720 in general. So if you're thinking of making the jump to the Ally because you want a little bit extra power and you also want the ability to run your games on Windows instead of on Steam, where you'd have to buy Windows separately and install it yourself, then hopefully this has been a useful test for you. I've got plenty more tests that I want to make in future videos for the Asus Ally Z1 Extreme, but for now, here's a video that I think you should absolutely check out, especially if you're into playing games on a handheld. That's all for today. I've been NihongoGamer, and I'll see you all real soon.